Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Mark Yarbro covers the Panthers, does radio up there in Charlotte on 7:30 the game. That's ESPN Charlotte. Good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here. Hey, Mark, thanks, man. How are you?
Matt, what the hell do you guys know about struggling down there? Let me tell you about struggling, my friend. How you doing, Matt?
Apparently I'm doing way better than you are, Mark.
It has been torture, Matt. 1-11's no fun. Even during the holiday season, it's just been torture.
What was your reaction to firing Frank Reich?
Matt, I wasn't surprised. I all along thought he would make it to the end of the season, but it just became apparent that it wasn't going to happen. This offense never got on track. It wasn't going to get on track, and it was just a point of the longer it dragged out, the players are going to be asked about it every week. Frank Reich was going to be asked about it every week. So David Tepper did what he does, and that's fire people, and he fired Frank Reich.
Even after 11 games, you knew definitively it was never going to work. You knew that after 11 games.
No, man, we watched this offense here in Charlotte all year, and look, Frank Reich started as a play caller. 6 games into it, he turns it over to Thomas Brown. It doesn't look any better, and then Frank Reich decides to take it back because he knew, if I'm going down, I'm going down with me calling the plays. He tried that. It didn't get any better, and it just got to a point where David Tepper had no choice. And, again, that's what he's good at. He's not good at much when it comes to his sports teams, but he's good at firing people. He's done that quite a bit between the Panthers and his soccer team, so that's what he did.
No DJ Moore, no Christian McCaffrey. Could I make the argument, Mark, that it was premature because Bryce Young doesn't have any talent around him?
You can make that argument, Matt, but look, you knew when you made the deal to move up to take Bryce Young and you gave up DJ Moore, you knew it was going to be a problem. But they brought in Adam Thielen, and look, to Adam Thielen's defense, he's done all you could ask him to do. He has done a nice job. He just hasn't gotten any help, whether it was Terrace Marshall, who's been, they drafted him 3 years ago. He's been inactive the last 2 games, a healthy scratch. Jonathan Mingo has really not done much. The free agents that they brought in here, Miles Sanders at running back, Hayden Hurst, who unfortunately now is dealing with a concussion and has some serious issues apparently. That neither one of those guys have panned out. And we haven't even talked about the offensive line yet, Matt, which has been a disaster. So you put all those things together, and Bryce Young just has not progressed to this point. It all works together, Matt, and it just has not been a good rookie season at all for Bryce.
Mark Yarbrough is with us afternoons on 7:30 the game. There at ESPN Charlotte. Is there anything this team you could say does well through 12 games?
Besides lose, they punt well.
Okay.
They kick well. Eddie Pinheiro and Johnny Hecker both have done a nice job. Matt, offensively, no. There's not one thing that I can tell you that they do well on offense. Defense, look, they have moments when they play okay, but they against the better competition offensively, they have struggled. And even last week against Tampa, there were a couple big breakdowns which cost them. So I wish I could tell you something or one thing that they do really well, but there's not. And Matt, that's why they're 1-11. They're just a bad football team.
Yeah. They're a bad football team at 1-11, and this line is still only 5. So the Saints aren't a great football team by any stretch. So give me a reason. Let me actually ask this way before I delve deeper into this game. What has been the player reaction to Chris Tabor? Like, has the mood, the vibe around the organization changed at all?
Yeah, it's funny, Matt, we talk to Panther writers every week on our show, and we've asked them that question. We asked them that question last week. Has there been any difference with Chris Tabor? And really, no. And that's the thing, Matt. It wasn't like these guys had quit on Frank Reich and they had rolled over, and now Chris Tabor's here, and all of a sudden, there's a pep in their step, and they're playing harder. No, it's just they're just bad. So the effort hasn't been an issue. I noticeably last week watching the Tampa game, I couldn't really see anything any different than what I saw under Frank Reich. It's just they're bad. The talent is not there. And again, I hate to keep going back to it, but that's why they're 1-11. It's really not effort. It's just they need more talent, and they need Bryce Young to play better. They need an offensive line to play better. Unfortunately, the offensive line is not going to get better this year. The receivers that he has aren't going to get better this year, and that's something that whoever the GM is, which I personally think should not be Scott Fitter going forward, but whoever the GM ends up being, that's their task in the offseason. You know, you got to find a head coach, and you've got to start finding some better talent to put around Bryce Young.
The Texans have one win. It was the Panthers have one win. It was week 7 against the Texans. How did they win that game?
That was a day that C.J. Stroud actually probably played his worst game, and it's not like he played terrible. He just did not make the plays that we have seen him make the rest of the games this season, and that was the game, Matt. If you remember, Bryce Young led them down the field. Now, the Texans had some defensive penalties on that last drive that helped them get in the field goal range, but that was the game, even though his stats weren't through the roof, that people said, all right, there's Bryce Young's first moment in the NFL. He led them down the field, led them in position to kick a field goal to win the game, which they did, and he thought, okay, this was the beginning of something. But unfortunately, that's been the high water mark for Bryce Young this year. So it wasn't a game. I think they won 15-13. It wasn't like they went out there and put up tons of yards and scored a bunch of points. That was a day where the defense did their job, and they did just enough offensively to win.
Mark Yarbro is with us. He's on Twitter at Mark Yarbro, Yarbro. If you want to give him a follow, 7:30 the game there, ESPN. Well, down here would be like Brough. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
It's funny, man. I'll go somewhere and I'll spell my name, and they keep adding letters. I went, nope, you're done. That's all they gave me. You can't add any letters to it. So,
what if there is a blueprint for the Panthers on Sunday? What is it?
Run the football. And that was the one thing they did fairly well last week, Matt, was run the football. For the life of me, I don't know why on 2 consecutive plays when they had a 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, they decided to throw the ball. They didn't complete either pass, and they ended up turning the ball over on downs. But run the ball, that was the one thing they were able to do fairly well. Chuba Hubbard had his first 100-yard rushing game last week against Tampa. So I think you run the football. If you can do that, maybe that sets up Bryce Young to make some plays with play action. But if they're going to win this game, it'll be running the football. And then on the flip side, defensively, whether it's against Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, trying to keep the game close enough to where the Panthers, maybe like the Texans recipe, have enough to find a way to win it in the end.
Saints, Falcons, Packers, Jags, Bucks. Do the Panthers win again this year?
I want to say next week in Atlanta. Atlanta comes here next week. I feel like that's a game I think they could win. Weeks ago, I may have given you the Packers game as a game, but right now, that game looks like it could get ugly. Jordan Love's playing out of his mind right now, and that's going to be a Packer team playing for a playoff spot. That offense is clicking, so that's a game I don't think they can win anymore. Jacksonville, whether it's Trevor Lawrence or C.J. Beathard or you fill in the blank, Mark Brunell, I don't care. I don't think they can win down there. And then the last game against Tampa, maybe that's a game here, the last game of the year they could win. But 1, maybe 2 at the best. I do not see them winning this Sunday down there in the Dome, though, Matt.
Okay, Saints are a 5-point home favorite. And boy, if the Saints are going to keep any glimmer of hope alive to make the playoffs, they got to win this one against Carolina. Mark, before you go, you did allude to the future, and that's probably, quite honestly, it is the more interesting conversation around Carolina at this point. You're at 1-11, the season's over. I don't assume that Chris Tabor is going to be retained as the head coach, but what are some of the conversations that you all are having about the future of the Panthers and being in the NFC South? There's a lot of interest in what happens there.
Yeah, and that the question is, how attractive is this job? I personally, right now, I don't care how many job openings become available. I would put it at the very bottom. And it's just, you're going to get paid, perhaps, but do you want to come work for David Tepper? Do you want to come to an organization where you don't have a first-round draft pick? You've seen the turnover that David Tepper has put his coaches through here in his tenure here as owner. Yes, the The division makes it somewhat attractive because right now it doesn't feel like there's that one dominating team. But you and the GM, whoever the coach may ends up being, you got a lot of work to do. And, for instance, Ben Johnson last year was a guy that the Panthers coveted. He wouldn't even come here for an interview. Now, they seem to think this go around, he would be interested. If you're Ben Johnson, if you weren't interested last year, Matt, why would you be interested in this job now? It feels like it's a worse job than it was last year.
Well, Frank Reich did get 30.
You just
answered
the question.
No,
right
I got
there.
the answer. If Frank Reich's getting $30 million to not work, look, being a fired coach is really, really good work if you can get it.
Well, then this is the spot, man. This is the spot for you. If you want to be a fired coach and get paid, maybe it is an attractive job. But if you want to come here and win, and there's people that you've seen Bill Belichick's name. Why in the world would Bill Belichick want to come here and work for David Tepper? I don't get that. Jim Harbaugh's name's obviously been thrown out there as well. But I feel like they are going to, have to get an assistant coach. And again, Ben Johnson's who they want. But if I'm Ben Johnson, there's no way in the world I would take this job when there are other better jobs out there.
He is Mark Yarbro. 7:30 the game. That's ESPN Charlotte. They're up in the Queen City. Hey, man, we appreciate it. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
Matt, take care, buddy. Good to talk to you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.